It's Danny here from Little Gems TV again. That's littlegemsrockshop.co.uk on the internet. Today I'm just going to be doing a short video about pendulums. I just want to cover the types of pendulums there are, how to choose what's best for you, and how to establish what a yes and a no answer is with a pendulum, and the best sort of questions that tend to work when using a pendulum. We stock at Little Gems about 40 different types of pendulum at any one time. That's different varieties and styles. We've got polished ones, rough ones, and quite a variety of weights. And I tend to like to use a heavy pendulum, but it's a personal preference. I always kind of encourage anyone, if they can, to actually pick the pendulum up or follow their instinct as to which one feels right for them. Certainly if you're visiting a store, it's best to actually try several in the store, and we encourage that to establish what ones tend to work best for you. Most people can use a pendulum. It's not something which just a select few can do. So certainly try different ones, but this is a heavy pendulum I'm going to try out. Now, before we start, the first thing, as I said, it's important to do is to see what the reaction of the pendulum is to questions. This helps us establish what is right, what is a yes and what is a no, because of course there's no point in getting an answer if we don't know how to interpret it. So first of all, I always suggest that you use something you definitely know the answer is correct. So for instance, I'm going to ask, am I Danny from Little Gems? I'm trying to hold the pendulum still, but obviously not struggling to hold it still, so if it's starting to move, that's fine, but I'm not deliberately moving it. If you find this difficult, however, at first, then you can just give it a backwards and forwards motion for the first time, just to get it a slight bit of movement. But here it's just establishing its own movement. Once it's moving a little bit more, I'm going to ask again, am I Danny from Little Gems? And still I'm getting a backwards and forwards movement, so that's going to be my yes. So I'm going to ask something I definitely know the answer is no to. So, is my name Bert? I'm taking my time here. But it's established a no with a circular motion. So backwards and forwards for me, and this could change on a different day, so it's always worth checking every day if you're going to be working with a pendulum what your yes and no is. But today my no is a circle and my yes is a backwards and forwards. Now it can be some people get a neutral answer, which is almost you're not meant to know the answer. So for instance, I'm going to fake this one. For instance, if I add these numbers to my lottery win, am I going to win tonight? And it could be someone gets them deliberately doing this, a shaking motion like this, where it's an indistinct, it's not yes or no. And that's because there's certain questions which I'd recommend you can ask a pendulum, and others which is best to avoid. The sort of questions you can ask a pendulum are ones that your subconscious, your deep down knowing, often knows. For instance, if I lost my keys and I was semi-aware when I put them down, but trying to multitask and do many different things, that's the sort of thing that sits in our subconscious, something we're aware of, but our everyday knowing gets in the way of. So we might have implanted another memory on top of, for instance, the conversation I had with a friend whilst I put down my keys, and forget that I put down my keys. So, as I explained, I believe, and this is my personal belief, that much of the information that comes through the pendulum is actually from our subconscious mind. So, obviously it pays to ask questions which we might at some deep level know the answer to. However, other people feel differently about this, and some believe that the pendulum is responding to something higher than ourselves. But in this particular instance, I've dropped my keys, and I'm going to try and establish where they might be. I'll go and check later, of course, once I've done this. But we've established my yes was a back and forth, and that my no was circular. So once we've got the pendulum gently responded in some way, I'm going to ask the question, have I left my keys in the living room? Because I may have laid them down somewhere in the living room. And it's coming up with a no here. Have I left my keys, because I know I was out in the garden, have I left my keys somewhere in the garden? And I'm getting a yes. So I'm going to work on that a little bit more after this video, and I can actually hone down whereabouts I might have laid them. So long as I laid them down and didn't drop them, then I've probably got some prior knowledge of it. So I know now to look in the garden. So that's the sort of question that I believe you can ask a question to. A really good, another good example, for instance, is food allergies. If I'm reacting in an allergic way, but I can't quite home in on what food it is, that might be a good question to ask yourself. Am I allergic to cheese, for instance? Am I allergic to dust? And that way you can start to home in on your subconscious, and you can home in on the information that your body holds and your mind hasn't quite as yet realised. So because I believe the pendulum works in that way, I don't believe it's right, for instance, or effective to ask, am I going to win the lottery tonight? Should I use the number 23 and 17 on the lottery? Because those are actually questions which aren't within my power, and I don't believe that any good would necessarily come from trying to predict that. So there's some questions you could ask a pendulum, there's some it's best not to, or where it's not going to be effective. So that's just a short introduction to pendulums and how I believe they may work, how to choose them, and how to establish the important bit, which is how they respond, the yes and the no. If you want to look at more pendulums, then you can find out more and information fact sheets on www.littlegemsrockshop.co.uk. And if you've got any questions, please ask away. And until our next video, see you soon.